Are you listening to the call of the Spirit? You know, I heard this story about this little girl who was listening. She was kind of waking up, and she goes to her daddy, and she says, "Daddy, Daddy, how did the human race first appear?" How did the human race first appear, Daddy? I mean, she's at that place where she's asking these questions. And her dad says to her, "Well, my little princess, many years ago, there were monkeys that roamed around the earth. They evolved, turned into humans, and that's how we have the human race and how it first appeared on earth." A couple days went by, and she went to her mother, and she says, "Mommy, Mommy, how did the human race first appear?" And her mother said to her, "Well, my little angel, God made Adam and Eve. They had children, and so was all humankind made." She paused for a moment. She looked at her mom, and she says, "I'm a little confused. In fact, I'm really confused. How is it possible, Mommy, that you told me that the human race was created by God, and Daddy said the human race came from monkeys?" And she says, "Honey, I want to share something with you, and I want you to remember this all your life." "What's that, Mommy?" She says, "Well, when your father told you about his side of his family, he was speaking about where his side of the family came from. And when I told you where my side came from, I was speaking about my side." You know, there's lots of theories out there of how we got here, where we come from. And of course, in Unity, we share that we are birthed from this divine idea that is in the mind of God. And then our journey, as we've been visiting week after week, is this conscious evolutionary journey to just begin to express that very idea in greater and greater ways, and just to begin to express more light in our life. You know, one where mommies and daddies' families and all our partners, we begin to treat each other a little kinder, a little more compassionately, and with a little wider lens, a little wiser lens, to really know the truth of one another. So welcome to week 4 of our Stairway to a New Humanity. You know, and next week, in week 5, it's actually going to be the new human. And I got a question for you. Are you willing to play with me next week? All right. Would you be willing to wear something blue next week, and then we're going to get a picture together as the new humanity? Would you play with me on that? Okay, fantastic. So this week, we're just going to look at what it is that comes before that rising into the new human. Now, we've been visiting week after week that, you know, we're presenting these as linear steps, but really these are things that happen over and over in our life on a micro level and a macro level. And there are things that happen within humanity over and over and over on a micro level and on a macro level. But let's again visit week 1, 2, and 3. And I keep repeating these so that we just continue to burn that into consciousness, okay? So in week 1, we looked and we saw that this first initiation on this first step was birth. And we saw that that was symbolized by the birth of Jesus. And we called that the authentic self. That we are here to nurture that, to mature that, and to bring it into its full expression. And that it's so, so necessary in our journey. And we looked at that saying from the Gospel of Thomas that says, if we don't bring forth what's within us, it will destroy us. But if we do bring forth what's within us, it will save us. And so we looked in week 1 and says, that's why we're here, to bring it forth, to bring that forth. And in week 2, we looked and we saw, well, we start to repress that a little bit sometimes as we kind of journey into these journeys and we begin to awaken this idea of I am an individual. And we start to repress some of that fullness that we are. And we also encounter this cultural conditioning, you know, and that also causes us to repress some of who we are. And so we saw that our second stair was baptism, that it's getting clear on who we are, to be cleansed of those thoughts, of anything shy, that we are this full expression of this divine idea in the mind of God. And we looked at Neville Goddard's teachings, and we saw that he taught exactly that. That's what the baptism initiation was all about. It's about getting clear on who you are in this pattern. And we looked and we saw, wow, Reverend Sandra, she really called us into just getting clear that we are a child of God. That we are birthed to come into this world to express that and to just be cleansed of any thoughts shy of that. In fact, she said, all babies, are a blessing. We're all a blessing here to express our divinity. So, and then we went to week 3. In week 3, we visited, this was Jesus' temptation, and we saw that he encountered this time in the wilderness where he was tempted with going back to 3D consciousness only and tempted to use the world's ways of power, to realize all this abundance and whatnot. And he said, no, I'm demonstrating bringing it the higher consciousness. And as soon as he said that, we saw that the angels came and supported his life, supported his ministry. One of the things I want to emphasize in this series is that our life is our ministry. A lot of the talks, a lot of what we bring forth, we kind of sometimes turn it into, well, you got to go move into a vocation or these kind of things. But really, that can be a teaching on separation. Can you see that? Yeah. It just can be a teaching on separation. No, this is all your life. What you're here for, whether as a grandmother or a grandfather or a mother or a father or a host, however it is, there's something about you that you're here to demonstrate for all of us. And our true ministry is choosing to participate in that. And we saw in week 4 that week 3 that when Jesus said no to 3D consciousness and navigating life in only 3D consciousness and gaining all power through all that, and he said no to that, stepped into his ministry, we saw that what begins to happen is we begin to move into a state of compassionate energy, which lifts us into our heart, which lifts us into week 4. This week, the initiation we are going to visit is transfiguration. This was the 4th initiation Jesus went through, and this is the last initiation we go through before stepping into the new human. Some people are asking me, what does the new human look like? Like you, but just a little more light shining through or a whole lot more light shining through. That's what it looks like. So listen to what Charles Fillmore said about transfiguration. Transfiguration is a supernatural change of our appearance that takes place as one experiences the full flow of divine power through his or her being. It's a lifting up of the soul that electrifies the body, causing it to shine. A glory that is possible for all. A glory that is possible for all. We are made to shine. And we're here to begin to just express and bring forth that light in greater and greater ways. And we're literally teaching that there is a literal light that begins to shine with us that literally heals us back to God. We're not separate from God, but in consciousness, it begins to heal us all back to God. So, I've been using this chart, the one that was up here before, and it's from this group that I talked to this week, Divine Marga, the New Humanity, and they're actually setting up this organization to begin to bring these teachings and practices to all the planet. And the gentleman shared with me, Mindo is his name, that they recently had this gathering on this island north of Italy where they brought in 1,000 religious leaders to begin to express that that's where we're headed, to this new human, and that we move through these rises in consciousness that we're visiting. But listen to what their website says. This is a direct quote from their website. Awakening into higher consciousness is the single most important achievement of a human lifetime, of this human lifetime on earth. Nothing else compares to the awakening to higher consciousness, no matter how much money you make or the number of personal achievements. This awakening is not only for ourselves, but it also transforms humanity. While we become, and here's the key, a carrier of light and a higher consciousness for humanity. while you become a carrier of light for all humanity. Even if we do nothing, we are already emitting a higher vibration all around. We are already healing people around us to the degree and intensity of our awakening and advancement. This is the single most important transformative event in a person's lifetime that helps to change humanity. Are you with me? Yeah, this is what we're sharing at Renaissance Unity. So, the question this morning is, do you want your light to shine even brighter? Yeah. And do you want to know what that transfiguration moment is all about? What is the very key to realizing that transfiguration? I mean, is this why you've come? Is this why you've come? To actually be here at this time and to move further into the light being that you are. Do you accept that? Yeah. Yes. Yes. So let's keep moving into week 4. What is this initiation that leads us to our transfiguration? There's an initiation that occurs before our transfiguration, and it's this. It is seeing and trusting that a bigger picture, a divine plan, is at work in your life regardless of appearances. I'm going to read that again. This is it. Can you embrace this? Are you noticing this? Is this happening over and over and over? Are you facing challenges over and over and over again? That's bringing you deeper into a knowing to demonstrate. This initiation that occurs before the transfiguration, it is seeing and trusting that a bigger picture, a divine plan, is at work in your life regardless of appearances, and you are the one to bring forth what you're awakening to around those challenges. That there's some way in which you're supposed to begin to embrace it, accept it as yours, not avoid it, and engage it just as it is. That's what love is. Love is engagement of what is. I love what Byron Katie says. You know, I love what is. I want what God wants. You're just showing up in the moment to engage it. So let's visit the template of Jesus' life, again, as we're doing each week, where we're going to see in this pattern exactly that first it's inviting us to become clear who we are, baptism, right? And then as we read it, you're going to see the pattern moving that once we become clear who we are, the next thing is for us to realize our self-empowerment, all right? That we are self-empowered. Just like the chart was saying, the last one that was up there. And then after we realize the self-empowerment that we realized last week, the next thing is to move into awakening that there is a bigger picture, a divine plan at work that is for saving your soul. Can we bring new light to old understanding, right? The way we're teaching to save our souls here at Renaissance Unity in the Unity movement, it's through stepping fully into our authentic self. It's just another way of saying Christ will save your soul, right? Can you be with me on that? Yeah, it's just another way of saying the exact same thing. Just as the Gospel of Thomas says, if you don't bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you. But if you bring forth what is within you, it will save you. What I mean by save you, it'll liberate you. Life will become more liberating, more abundant, more joyful, more engaging, you'll expand till you'll realize, I didn't even know these things were possible. I didn't even know things outside of this planet were possible like this. You just begin to awaken. It becomes a wonderful, wonderful journey. So let's read the story that's been hidden in plain sight in the canonical Gospels even. So here we are at Matthew 16:13. So those of you who like to read the Scriptures, you can go home and you can find this pattern in many of the Gospels just this way. But if you want to read along in Matthew 16 in the beginning of 17. So here it is. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." And he asked them, but who do you say I am? And Peter, faith, right? In unity, we're teaching Peter is faith. Listen to what his faith responds to him. You are the Messiah. You are the Son of the living God. He gets really clear on who he is. Do you hear it? There it is. That's second initiation. Now, Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but my Father in heaven. You're starting to receive information from beyond the third dimension. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Do you hear that? That we're going to bring a new humanity through being very clear on who we are. Yeah. Even the canonical Gospels have been revealing this the whole time. And on this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome. And now here comes self-empowerment. Remember, it follows after that second initiation. And then we move into self-empowerment. And then right after he says that, he says, I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Then he ordered the disciples to go and tell no one that he was the Messiah. In other words, as you're awakening, kind of keep it to yourself. Stay away from the ego, right? But move further into that knowing. So there again, we see that exact same pattern. Getting clear who we are, and then getting clear that we're self-empowered. We literally have the keys. So we move to the fourth week then, and here's where we begin to embrace that a bigger divine plan, a bigger picture is at work in our life. So from that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed on the third day, be raised to life. Peter took him aside and he began to rebuke him. Never, Lord, never, he said. This shall never happen to you. Jesus turned and said to Peter, get behind me, Satan. There's a bigger plan at work. This is mine. There's a bigger plan at work. This is mine, and I see it. And I'm willing to say yes to it. This is a pattern that we're bringing, right? I mean, that's a whole lot, right? I mean, I get that. I'm not presenting something here that I don't see that's a whole lot. But we're looking at a pattern here, right? We're looking at a pattern that there's something we need to embrace in our life. We need to show up for in our life. That it's ours to demonstrate. Okay? So he's clear on it. Then he says, not only get behind me, Satan, there's a bigger plan. You are a stumbling block to me. And listen to what he says. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, the concerns of the fifth dimensional consciousness where we receive it, but merely human concerns. Do you hear it? You're literally still just in 3D consciousness, right? You only have human concerns in mind, which was survival consciousness, right? That's what those lower chakras are all about. And then he said this, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life will find it. Their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? Do you hear it? Again, that for us to move into saving our souls, I'm using that language that many of us grew up with, to bring new light to that old understanding, that it's through expressing more and more of our authentic self and why we're here, and expressing that we begin to experience liberation, which was what the word salvation meant to begin with. It meant that you can breathe freely. That's what the word meant in Aramaic. We begin to have this freer feeling in life. And after that, listen to what happens next. Can you see that Jesus, the way shower, demonstrating this pattern, that we must embrace the bigger picture that we're seeing. We must say yes to it. This is what happens after he does that. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Do you hear the pattern? Yeah. This is the last step before the new humanity. We're here at this amazing, amazing, amazing time. I mean, we can choose this world of separation and duality and polarization and really amplify one of those poles, right? That's 3D consciousness. Or we can see what is ours to embrace. What is that bigger picture to embrace? You know, I could tell you 100 stories about those who've stepped into their bigger pictures. But at the end of the day, there's no one story that's going to help you exactly with what is yours. It may help, but it can be so unique to you. And that's your journey to uncover that. So my question for you this morning is, can you see a bigger picture in your life where you are the one to be the one? I can. In fact, yesterday, right when I'm writing this talk, I got a crisis call. I mean, right when I'm doing this. And it's part of the bigger picture for me. It's part of the bigger picture for me. There's a common thread that occurs over and over in our life to show us what that bigger picture is. So if the musicians would like to come forward, I'd like to close with it's not really a story. It's an experience I had recently with a new friend that I met. Her name is Dr. Jane McCarthy. Dr. Jane is, she's been an instructor of mine for 3 of the classes that I take in my journey toward becoming ordained in unity. In fact, one of the classes, it was just me and her, just me and Dr. Jane. You know, and so for 6 weeks, 2 hours every week, it was just her and I exchanging these ideas, about our spiritual journeys and about the way we're perceiving these gospels and the way we're perceiving many other things. And so, as you can might imagine, I got to know her well and she got to know me well, and we really appreciated our time together. Now, Jane is not only a unity instructor with Unity Worldwide Ministries, she's a PhD scientist at a major university in northern Florida. And she also is a real student of early Christianity. I mean, she is a real student. She's a member of a biblical archaeological society, and she's traveled over the Middle East so many times, and she shows us these pictures, and she's educated me on so much of what was happening. And a big thing she was bringing during teaching us is that during this time, women were extremely repressed. They were so oppressed that when the Gospel of Thomas is written, at the very end, Jesus actually says, I'm going to make Mary into a man. Why? Because they believed only men could go to heaven. I mean, this is where the consciousness was at. We've come a long way, but we got a long way yet to go. So she just builds the history around it. And you just begin to see, wow, I've read this many times, but I never quite knew it was like that. Right? Now I see what they're writing in a greater way. But her story is this. There's a thread running through her story. As a young girl, she really, really wanted to be a PhD scientist someday. She just did. She wanted to be like a man. She'll actually say that, and she's kind of chuckling a little bit when she's sharing that with us. But her family that she was a part of told her over and over and over again that going on to education and advanced education is not the role of a woman. To the point where it just kept building up and building up and building up in her, to one day she says, "The heck with you all." That's actually not what she said. I'm going to become a scientist. I'm going to do it my way. That's not an ego way there, okay? That is the higher call. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the one to be the one. It's me. I'm the one to bring it to light. That we're still evolving. There's still much oppression going on all around us. And I'm the one that's going to bring forward that this is what was going on back there. And I'm going to demonstrate to you just what you can do. You can step into and realize this life. And she did. The heck with you all. I'm going to be a scientist. She picked up her cross. And she's saving her soul. And she's saving all our souls. Are you with me? Yeah. That's it. And when she shares this, you can see her light. I mean, she is in such joy. And she absolutely shines. In fact, we finished a class this week, and she said, "What do you think?" And when she said, "What do you think?" you could just see her radiating. It was so, so beautiful. So if you bring forth what is within you, it will save you. If you don't bring forth what's within you, it will destroy you. There's something you're being invited to embrace in a greater and greater way as yours. And when you do, and when you embrace it, you will shine your light for all, move through that transfiguration, and you will bring us all to the new human. Come next week with your blue on and your light shining, and we're going to have some fun with the new human. Namaste. Namaste.